I want to see Owen dropped into like every movie ever made, but specifically, what scene do you think he'd have the most fun in the original Jurassic Park?
I would say in the original Jurassic Park, the most fun he'd have is probably in the kitchen sequence with the raptors, right? I mean, that's like...
What would he do?
He'd probably take one of the kids and be like, come here, I'm gonna save you. And then he'd just like sacrifice one of the kids, throw it at the raptor, let the raptors eat that kid.
Right.
Grab the other kid, get going, save that kid in case he needed another distraction later.
All right, someone get Spielberg on the phone. Let's get this done.
Hey, man.
Immediately.
Yes,
Yeah.
a prequel.
Yeah. Now, I'm a big nerd about filmmaking. I get so geeked out in movies, I get nerd tears.
What do you got?
They start streaming down my face. The scene I got, though, is when you was on the motorcycle and the raptors are riding against. How does that scene look on set? How is that shot pulled off? I know they're CG, but what are you seeing? How do they do that moment?
Well, you know, the entire movie is you're gonna like this. The entire movie we're essentially remaking a movie based on a cartoon that Colin has directed. So he directs what's called an animatic, which is essentially a shot-by-shot cartoon of the whole movie. He spends a lot of time directing it, making sure, and it's essentially a moving storyboard. So when we're getting into the part with the raptors, we're watching the action on the screen, and we're like, okay, this is the piece we're picking up now. It's just you driving by, looking to your right. So we'll do that, and I'll be riding a real motorcycle by the camera. And then sometimes they'll have me, okay, this is you real close up, you're looking left, you're looking right. And so we'll put me on like a trailer, and I'd be pulled behind with a camera right in front of me, and I'll do this. And, you know, so a lot of the times, you don't know exactly, if you were just kind of running and gunning and shooting wildly, you wouldn't know what you're doing, but because you get to see the pieces, you're essentially trying to copy the physicality of the cartoon that they've already shot, the animatic that they've already shot. They did the same thing on Guardians of the Galaxy.
Owen and Starlord in the room together, what do they talk about?
Owen
and Starlord.
Owen and Starlord, what do they talk about? 80s movies, probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to see this.
They'd probably just talk about Back to the Future.
Someone call James Gunn.
Yeah.
Let's do this right now.
I love it. I love it, man.
Now, I went to a local high school before I came here, and I got some fan questions. And this girl had a great question for you. She's a 10th grader, so you just hit the play button on there.
Great. And this question is for Chris Pratt. Was it difficult coming into such a popular film franchise and making it appealing to the audience of the past movies and to new audiences?
Wow, that's a really good question. Yes. Any kind of filmmaking is difficult, and every kind of movie that you see out there poses huge challenges. This one was particularly difficult because you're trying to balance not only the expectations of a generation that loved this film and finds this material very sacred and is willing to be very vocal about if you piss them off, if you don't do a good job telling this story or tell a story that's worthy of the franchise, they're going to be up in your face about it because it's very special to them, and I understand that. So you want to be able to do that, but at the same time, you want to make a movie that stands alone. You don't want to be beholden to everyone else's ideas. So it's a very fine balance, and I think Colin did a really excellent job of telling a movie that's now timely, it's relevant, it makes sense to be telling this story 22 years later after the events of the original movie, and you're responsible for ushering a whole new generation of kids into the theater to see this movie and to fall in love with this franchise. But at the same time, you don't want their parents to be mad because you blew it for this movie that they loved they were so fond of. So I think it was a fine balance. It was difficult, but I think we nailed it. I really think we nailed it, and I'm so excited to hear what people think.
First of all, congratulations to you.
Your outfit is so cool!
Thank you. You look beautiful. You look beautiful. Now, I get so nerded out about movies, especially this. I don't want to give anything away. I'll keep this very vague, but you have a pretty epic slow-mo run moment where you're running from a dinosaur.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think you may have been in heels.
May have been in heels.
Yeah.
Absolutely was in heels, yeah.
Let's talk about first of all, the art of a slow-mo run without giving anything away. And then how do you keep your balance running like that?
Well, the art of a slow-mo run happens in the camera. I run just as fast, and it's all done technically. So it's so fun when you do a scene, and it kind of like flies by, and then when you see it in the movie and you realize that they were shooting in that format, it's like so much more dramatic, which is great. And then the art of running in heels. A lot of prayers involved. You just don't want to die pretty much or break your ankle. A lot of ankle exercises.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really funny because I was focusing so much on the strength of my ankles. There came a point where I was like, wait, I'm in a movie. I should be working out other parts of my body as well. But yeah, I was just hell bent on not getting
My
into
girlfriend was sitting next to me. She's like, Kevin, she's in heels. I'm like, really? I looked down for a second. I'm like, oh, she is.
My mom saw it with me, and she was more frightened of the heels than she was of the dinosaurs. Like, she kept being like, no. I'm like, there's no dinosaurs, right? And I realized it's because she thinks I'm going to fall flat on my face.
That's amazing. You know, one thing I find fascinating about your character is this balance of work life and then her family life.
Yeah.
And she struggles with that.
Or
She
lack
doesn't
thereof.
even know the ages of her nephews at one point in the movie. So I'm wondering if you, as an actress in this business, who obviously you work as an actor, how do you balance out that life work balance? Because obviously everybody has to deal with that. But
yeah, I mean, I think just all parents, all caregivers, anyone who is responsible for another human being. That could be your own parents, that could be, your siblings or your children. It's just, it becomes, when someone is, when you're responsible for someone, that balance becomes really tricky. And so, yeah, I mean, it's something I definitely relate to. Because, I mean, my character, Claire, she runs the park, and she's responsible for the visitors and the dinosaurs and the bottom line. And it's not that she's a bad person, but her actions are deeply incongruous with her values. And I think if anyone who's trying to kind of attempt a work-life balance, if that's even possible, it's like a daily kind of check-in of like, okay, am I connected to my values right now? Is what I'm doing what I would want to be doing? Is it like, how's it going? And sometimes the answer is yes, and more often than not, the answer is no, and it's a challenge for anyone.
I went to a local high school, by the way, and I got some fan questions, and this girl had a great question for you about your, here you go, just hit play right there.
Okay, cool.
She wants to know about the practical effects and the CGI.
I had a question for Bryce. So in the Jurassic World movie, I know they include some scenes with practical effects and some with CGI effects. I wanted to know how challenging it was for you to stay in character with when they're using CGI effects, because there's basically nothing there.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question, and I wasn't really sure how we were going to handle that. You can't really anticipate like what that experience is going to be like, where you're needing to pretend that you're being, say, chased by a dinosaur and there's nothing there.
Yeah.
However, Colin was really smart about how to kind of create a sense of realism for all of us, and what he did was that he built the park. I mean, we were. Like, what you see in the movie was what we were experiencing. Of course, the scope of it was amplified in post, but that park was real. And then in addition to that, there was an animatronic dinosaur. There was a group of actors who were performing the roles of velociraptors, and then sometimes you're looking at nothing, and there is an element of absurdity to that. And it's not that it's difficult to stay in character, but sometimes there's just moments when you just can't help but kind of giggle a little bit. But I was really impressed with how real everything felt. Although there was one day I'm like looking over here at the set, and you see the inside of the Indominus Rex paddock, and there was this one day where they were trying to kind of create the movements of the dinosaur in the brush, and there were all these guys out there just shaking the trees. And I looked down and I was like, this is like little boys in their backyard pretending that there's a dinosaur. They were just like shaking the trees, being like, roar! And I mean, it's just, you can't deny the fun of that,
It's awesome. All right, so I'm a big fan of the original, obviously, and I love that you paid homage to it in small ways, but also in big ways too. Like, there's little things like the car mirror shot. I love that moment, and the strand of DNA, as I was just mentioning to you. But my favorite thing was your little homage to Stan Winston. I know you're dealing with a lot of CG in the film, but you also went animatronic. You talk about that moment, what that moment meant to you, and also how you filmed that moment. How did that work?
We got to have something that was really there and really happening. And John Rosengrant and a group called Legacy, which is what the house that Stan Winston built.
Right.
They came in and they built this beautiful Apatosaurus that the actors were able to touch and interact with and emote with, and they brought it in on this day. We were in the middle of a field out in the middle of Kauai, and there were about 3 people operating it, and it was beautiful to hear him direct them while Chris and Bryce were interacting with this animal as it was dying, and the life was being taken from its face. You could hear him as he's controlling it, and it's going and it's going and it's gone, and you see her and it was beautiful.
You know, one thing I found fascinating was in the beginning of the film, you kind of make a joke about product placement in the sense of like there's like a joke about the Verizon sponsoring the new dinosaur. And I'm wondering, for you as a director, you're bringing on a big project here. Product placement's been a part of movies for years. How involved are you in that and like making it so not so it's obtrusive to the audience?
You know, with this, it was something that very early I wanted to make sure we didn't have a bunch of fake brands. I wanted real brands, and I wanted them to own everything. But when we made deals with all these different brands, we made it very clear, you know, the oldest creatures that ever walked the planet are going to destroy everything that you have built, including your brand. And they were like, great, let's do it. So the word synergy gets thrown around a lot, but there was a very earnest synergy in this, in that I was able to make a movie about how, you know, the quest for profit is a dehumanizing force and kind of crushes joy, while you know, allowing things, you know, like the Samsung Innovation Center to exist. It was pretty cool how we were able to do that. So I just kind of leaned into it and embraced it and made a movie about it.
Now, I'm a big fan of Michael Giacchino. I think he's one of the greatest composers working today. I mean, Star Trek obviously lost and everything he's done. And you're dealing with John Williams' classic theme, which is one of the most iconic pieces of music in the history of music.
Right.
And I'm wondering how you direct Giacchino to keep it's a different theme, but it has to kind of blend in with what you do, because you do have Williams' score here in the movie. Talk about how you directed that, and did you direct it as if you direct an actor, because it has an arc, just like an actor does.
I do, because, you know, I wanted to give him the freedom I didn't want him to be afraid, and I wanted to empower him to make a score, to create a piece of music that could live alongside it. And you know, I could see how any composer in the shadow, much like the position that I was in the shadow of a true great, would step back and say, well, I'm going to be very timid in this, because far be it from me to try and you know, make something that can compare to arguably the greatest composer to ever write for film. And so there was actually a moment later in the film when a big, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but a big dinosaur shows up, and it's a very exciting moment in the film. And I said, no, right now, I want to hear the theme. This is where we should hear the theme. And so he put the John Williams theme in, and I was like, no, man, like the Jurassic World theme, your theme. And it was kind of a moment where it was like, oh yeah, this one is mine, and I get to lean into this and make it my own. And he really did. I think the score is spectacular. I think it is different level.
Love Michael Giacchino.
It's so good.
It's incredible.
It's so warm and big, and it's very special.
I went to a local high school, by the way, and I got fan questions, and this girl has an incredible question for you. Okay. And I thought it was like really smart.
This is a video question?
Yeah, just go ahead and hit the play button right down the bottom.
How would you apply the lesson learned in Jurassic World about genetically creating a new dinosaur species to the realm of artificial intelligence?
Ooh, that is a good question.
Yeah.
You know, I think that what this movie dealt with was a little bit less about, you know, the dangers of messing with genetics, and a little bit more about the existence of real living things and animals on our planet right now. And if anything, you know, the fears that I think we try to play up are how the corporatization of everything is a great danger to science and is a great danger to progress, because if the number one goal is to make money, it is very easy for the science to be corrupted toward you know, means that may or may not be wise for humanity. And I think that applies to artificial intelligence in the same way that it does to dinosaurs. And you see it in the film. They tried to create something that was going to make them a lot of money and bring people to this park, and they made a monster that ended up eating everything in its path. And so whether that's AI, whether it's dinosaurs, I think while it's not a message movie, I think there is something inherent in this idea of excess and greed kind of steamrolling over all of our ethics and our morals as humans.
It's awesome. I had so many more questions for you to wrap me up, but thank you for the interview, man.
All right,
It was a
man.
pleasure. Thank you so much, man.